Hey everyone, welcome back to another Stock Market Open Live. Today we are really just the eve of the jobs report day. I'm convinced that we're a little bit on thin ice. Doesn't necessarily mean we've got bad things coming, but it would really only take one bad CPI or jobs report to upset the market a little bit. Now, I think I'm coming up on about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks is a little more bearish following those January and February reports that we've had on inflation, and then also the the sort of lackadaisical response so far to some of the changes in the data that we're getting from JPAL. So that puts more pressure on the reports being released this month. Now, fortunately, there's always the chance that the reports come in totally fine and they sort of reiterate to the Fed, don't worry, everything is fine. We don't need, don't need to change anything. If those reports come in fine tomorrow and the next week on CPI, great, perfect. But I do think we're set up nicely for a miss in the event those come in poorly. So today, as far as data, we're looking at initial jobless claims, not really expecting any big change here. And then tomorrow, not really expecting a big miss on the payrolls report. The only place we're really going to be paying heavy attention to is going to be that average hourly earnings number. That's that month over month and that year over year item. So we'll look at those. Month over month expected to be 0.3, year over year expected to be 4.1. And then CPI next week, looking for 0.4 and on the month over month and 0.3 on the core. These numbers will also begin to be affected by these higher oil prices, a little bit in March, but more so in April. So bonds right now sitting at up about a couple bips, looking at 4.37. We were up at 4.42 yesterday, but then we did get a little bit of a weaker ISM inflation read on services prices paid, and that did help relax markets a little bit after that wild ADP report in the morning suggesting a 10% job increase or pay increases for job changers. Not exactly what you want to see in this environment, especially since in January we did have a warm pay report in the jobs report, as well as last month's ADP report that was starting to inflect up rather than continuing its trend down. So again, jobs report tomorrow. Today we'll just get the initial claims report, and that'll be in about a minute. All right, let's see here. All right, excuse me. All right, so other than that, other than those catalysts coming, there's a little bit of a piece on Amazon and just essentially how much cash they have and how much potential there is for California for Amazon to do something with that cash. There's a lot of excitement around that. That was being covered a little bit. And let's see what we've got else. Oh, it looked like gold this morning fell back to about 2,300. So it's down about 20, 25-ish bucks from its high there. And let's see here. Here come the initial claims. And we're looking for 214. We got 221. So, and then continuing claims came in lower than expected at 1791 versus 1811. So, a little bit of a give or take. You got a slight little beat on the initial claims, but you got a miss on the continuing claims. Really should lead to essentially no movement, would be my expectation. Okay, wow, you actually got a small little green candlestick. Maybe this is just a way of saying, hey, we don't actually yet have pain in the labor market, and so that's why we are getting a green candlestick out of that. That'd be the only thing I can imagine. But that claims report's pretty good, pretty bang on expectations. It is possible that the market may want to try to hold its breath a little bit before some of these continuing claims numbers and say, okay, well, if all of a sudden we get a really large continuing claims figure, is that a sign that we're starting to turn, we're starting to have that jobs pain? And the answer to that is no so far. Not that it really seemed likely we were going to get any change in the continuing claims today. bigger issue is coming tomorrow with the jobs report, and then Wednesday for the CPI report. So remember those dates. You've got tomorrow, jobs report, coupon expiration. Monday, you have warrant expiration for House Hack. Wednesday, you've got CPI. And then you'll have PPI on Thursday. So a busy week next week. You'll also get the minutes next Wednesday for the Fed meeting. So we'll take a look at those. Not really expecting anything juicy out of the minutes. Mostly because, you know, we've seen this before where, you know, the Fed has just sort of been icing any kind of interest in responding to some of the warmer data, which is very weird because the Fed has told us they're going to be data dependent. And so, you know, I'm looking at the data, I'm like, oh no, okay, inflation's stabilizing higher, and so we've got some changes here in pay that are much higher than expected. The Fed's got to react, and so far the answer has been, nah, we don't care about that data. So it's been really entertaining. It does look like the Qs gave back that green candlestick. I don't see a reason why, but maybe because the reason it took off in the first place wasn't that useful, but who knows? It's just the minute candlesticks, anything can happen. Let's see here. So then we've got first quarter S&P earnings are projected to rise 4.1% year over year, but if you exclude the Magnificent Seven, you're actually expected to see the earnings for S&P 500 companies fall 1.9%. So really, you've got that Mag 7 kind of keeping up earnings, especially companies like NVIDIA and Microsoft. And so Q1 estimates have already dropped, and so that could help soften some of that blow for earnings. Obviously, a lot of that coming from the AI forecasts and substantial enthusiasm over artificial intelligence. Still think, what was it? It was a Wall Street Journal Palantir piece, I believe it was. 2 billion, 50 billion AI chips. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, here. I think it was this. So, at the end of this Wall Street Journal piece, where are they? They were talking somewhere about how the amount of money that's been spent on chips has been somewhere around $50 billion. And the amount of software revenue that's generated has been around $2 billion. So you've got this wild disparity in returns. But obviously there are hopes that things will be better. Is it here? Where is this? Yeah, I can't find that darn piece. But I thought it was really funny. Because, I mean, really what's happening is companies are investing for the long term. This idea that, hey, like, the software revenues will come. You know, if you build it, they will come. So we'll see. Okay, good. So next we have, so that's data. No more data for today, so that's kind of boring. Yeah, here's that Amazon piece. Amazon, stingiest among tech mega caps. That's to give back shareholder capital. So, you know, for stock buyback purposes or otherwise. Big acquisitions, increasingly facing regulatory opposition. Amazon has had fewer options on how to deploy that cash. This suggests not only rising share buybacks, but a more aggressive capital return policy, including potential dividends. Google repurchased more than 60 billion in shares, Meta more than 20 billion. Amazon didn't do any share buybacks. Instead, the founder dumped shares. Yeah, that's interesting. That's one way to look at Amazon. I generally don't look at these stocks when I invest in them, because I've got some good exposure to Amazon now. Generally don't look at them as a tool for, you know, are they going to provide dividends or share buybacks? Those are great. Those are wonderful benefits. But not always, but sometimes that could be a sign that, hey, like, the company's just making so much money that they don't even really know how to invest it anymore. And then it gets a little scary, and it's kind of like, hey, you know, sure we can't be innovating. But plenty of companies issue a ton of buybacks, and it really helps the stock out, at least in the near term. And they're still great companies. So I mean, it's not necessarily true that the company's incapable of making great investments just because of that. But I know that is a thought a lot of people have. Okay, so let's write this down. Continuing claims. Let's see here. Continuing claims, we'll just say roughly at expectations, and we'll call it 211K versus 214. Job claims. Okay. Initial claims were 221 versus 214 expected, and continuing were 1791 versus 1811 expected. Easy. All right, then let's see how yields are moving on that. Oh, the Q's like moving up on this now. You've got gold still sitting around that 2300 level. Oil fractionally down about 13 basis points. 10 years up about 1.2, down actually a little bit after that initial claims report. Ford to delay all-electric SUV to focus on hybrid vehicles. Yeah, that does make sense with sort of where some consumer expectations are now. I think this is where like Tesla just clears the competition out of the way. Ford is delaying production of its all-new electric 3-row vehicle to offer hybrid options instead. Okay, delaying all-electric 3-row SUV to focus on hybrid. Okay, let's see here. Slower EV adoption than expected. Yeah. See, that's what I expected. Yesterday, I was talking about how in the sort of the evening news video that we did on this channel, I was talking about how I don't think that Ford would be very willing to, let's say, license Tesla software, mostly because I think their CEO was very clear that software could be a profit center for these companies. And so they're waking up to realizing, oh, you can make money on having better software, and the margins are really, really great. And I remember that CEO doing the sort of like, oh, software, I was really enthused. And so now we have this quote. Let's write this down. So this quote is, our breakthrough next generation EVs will be from the ground up and fully software enabled, with ever-improving digital experiences and a multitude of potential services. Yeah. Recall about a year ago, Ford CEO has become infatuated with the idea of selling software due to high margins. So this, in my opinion, makes it more likely for them to desire in-housing software dev versus licensing. And that's just my take. All right. Next. So, yeah, that was the creepy CFO. Oh, was it the CFO? I thought it was Jim Farley. I'm pretty sure that was Jim Farley. But, let me see here. Because we had that audio clip of him, too. Yeah, I'm not going to have that handy. Oh, well. So, let's see here. Somebody here says GM isn't a software company, and they've never been ever. Oh, so that's why they spent $30 billion on Chevy Cruze, and now they have the Cruze sort of driver assist ADAS built into their vehicles, which also enable you to use Cruze while you're towing, Now there's a limit to where you could use it, and it's not, it's certainly not like Tesla in my opinion. Tesla's FSD is amazing, but they do now have their own software, right? You're right. They didn't used to be a software company, but then they bought Cruise. Kevin, send me some money. Need to buy more Bitcoin. Sure, just send me 1 Bitcoin first, so I could send you 2 back. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. So, does the price of gold concern me? Yeah, well, the price of commodities really in general is somewhat concerning because we are seeing a rise in commodity prices across the board. Bloomberg, let me see, BCom index. Let me grab the BCom index. So, if you look on screen now, you can see this sort of recent rise that we're getting in commodities. It's been pretty rapid over here. And the concern is there potentially some safe haven work at play where, or, are people either expanding their investment to include commodities, diversifying a little bit more, or is it potentially that, gold and some of the commodities are becoming, sort of like a fear play? We don't really know. Let's see if I can throw gold in here. Well, I thought that'd be nice. It only wants equities in here. Okay, fine. How about like IAU? Let's just yeah, look at that. Here's gold's rally relative to the rest of the Bloomberg Commodities Index. So you've seen this resurgence in commodities start around February 26th. It's also right around when Bitcoin started really kicking butt. But it's really gold that just took off well beyond the price of commodities in general. So, pretty wild. So, BTC is still a little bit stuck in this pattern here. I'm not really enthused about where we sit right now. Mostly because I think we're bobbing around under the trend line here. Let's go ahead and extend that just a little bit more. And so this bobbing around under the trend line, almost like there's some form of ceiling, is not great, but so far it seems relatively stable. So maybe not anything significant. Okay, good. So next, let's see here. U.S. labor data leaves current market narrative intact. Right. Clearly, what is this? Let's see. Challenger job cuts remain near post-COVID peaks. Blah blah blah. Okay, that's pretty boring. So next, let's take a listen to see what they've got for us on good old CNB Sizzles.
That is not them. So you've got to deal with that now. You've got to deal with.
It's always been done, but not to where you.
Do you believe? And you could always.
But now you can't tell.
I mean, the thing of we found out that the Princess of Wales doctored her photograph. Yeah. Well, okay, because you saw she did it badly. An arm was in the wrong place. Done like simple AI. Nobody in the world would.
Do you think these guys will
totally different?
And you don't
person.
think they can self-regulate themselves? You know Sam Altman very well, but you've also been on the other side of Sam Altman as it comes to the way OpenAI is.
Two things have to happen. One, you have to race to have legislation that lets, of course, it birth and grow, but is also reasonably protective. The second thing you have to do is you have to redefine, and I'm going to get weeds here, fair use in terms of being able to publish things. You have to say fair use, which allowed you to take things from and snippets and do whatever. But the idea that you can sweep up, for instance, all of Expedia's content and use it, that it took us billions of dollars to create, is nuts. You have to redefine it and say it is illegal. And then what will happen is transactions will get made between the parties on what fair use really is, which is You're using their content, you get paid for it.
It's funny because when Satya Nadella was speaking to Lester Holt from NBC, he talked about that and he said, look, it's a new technology. We have to find new ways to deal with it, which sounded like they were looking for a Section 230 for AI, where, you know, let them grow, let them flourish, don't blame them for anything.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, listen,
Speaking of AI, Oracle and Palantir have a little bit of news about Oracle and Palantir to deliver AI to governments and businesses. I feel like that's not a surprise, though, that, you know, both of them are trying to deliver these AI products. But it sounds like here now you've got a joint sort of partnership. Yeah, it is. To provide secure cloud and AI solutions aiming to power businesses and governments around the world. So you have sort of a partnership combining Palantir's AI platform with the Oracle Cloud to increase efficiency. Ah, interesting. I've got a good chunk of exposure to Palantir, and it's been selling off quite a bit, except today it looks like it's going back to, trying to get back to about 24 bucks. So, good job, Palantir here. Okay, very good. So what else do we have? Let's see how our pre-market's doing. Wow, that's unusual. There are like no red names. You've got Square's down 3%. Google on this idea of like charging people to use Google for AI-powered search. Square, I wonder why they're down 3%. See, boy, that's a company I have not looked at in a while, actually. Let's see. Price target falls as Morgan Stanley downgrades unlimited upside. Interesting. Well, kind of been bobbing along the bottom here as well. Okay, so very, very little red. That will change. It almost always certainly does. So you generally see this rotate pretty quickly to about a page to 2 pages of red. The question is just what green stocks now are going to turn red. So we don't know. On the upside, we've got Lunar, and this one's very volatile. Palantir 4.7, Wayfair's up 4. You've got Coinbase up 3. You've got Astera Labs trying to push up. Etsy 2.2. Trump's Media Group 49 bucks. Sunrun 1.9. Enphase is up 1.4 right now. This is likely heavily on just the interest rate enthusiasm that you're getting right now. This is, let's see what our rate cut enthusiasm looks like this morning. Rate cut monitor, and go here. Okay, so for June, futures are pricing in, interesting, a 59.1% chance of cut. You know, yesterday it was like mid-60s, so it just keeps bobbing around, which is kind of entertaining, but also surprising that it dropped, because it didn't seem like there was really a reason for that this morning. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is, let's see here. Let's see, those are rate cut projections. Looking at, again, 59.1% chance of June cut. As of 5:49. 5:49. Ay. It's too early. All right. Let's see what they got for us.
Madness. Which is what is going to lead to, I think, sensibly, not necessarily a 4-day work week, but 4 days in the office, and Fridays you can work from home or work at your own schedule. And I think that is going to be the sensible evolution of all this, but it has to be standardized. You can't have 17,000 different programs, because how do you deal with all the things around it? It doesn't make any sense.
To me, it seems like it adds to the inequality issues, because if you are a salaried employee, you can have these conversations. If you're an hourly worker, you can't. And it must just seem like, are you kidding me? This is what they're talking about?
What if you're doing an infrastructure project? What if you need to get something done?
Well, you can't, look, if you have to talk.
Normal people have to work 5 days.
If you have to talk to anyone else, you cannot work from home.
That too.
If your work involves anything other than sitting and staring at a screen or talking to a on customer service, which doesn't involve anybody else in your company, okay.
Right.
But if you relate to anyone else, come into an office and be part of an environment that has so many different things running around inside of it that betters your life, your career, and betters the business. And by the way, I do think that we're going to go to 4 days. I hope it'll get standardized. Fridays
Construction people, Barry? I mean,
no, look, there are people, if you're in, like with MGM, we have a lot of resorts, right?
Yeah.
You have to come
you
to my
can't,
resort.
you can't vacation.
They've talked about 4-day work weeks for like generations. It's just not happened.
White.
So this is the
God
investment
forbid I
thesis
say
question.
white
No, but
today.
this is the investment thesis question as it relates to this.
Yes.
Is, here you had Steve Cohen basically saying, so now everyone's got an extra day to play golf. For you, does that mean that there's an extra day for people to get on an airplane, go to Vegas, and gamble at an MGM?
I think partially so. Yeah, I think Fridays
Casino.
is going to be, I think for some businesses, Friday will be a work day, but not in the office.
But does that mean people are going to be renting more VRBOs?
I definitely think we're going to more or less, not an absolute, because it is an absolute. If you have a gas station, you have to be there to do the gas, if there are gas stations. But I do think that it's going to get standardized, and I do believe that probably 4 days. Look, it is just right now, it really is chaos in these companies.
Right.
You have so many different programs. In our companies, which total, I don't know, 60,000 or something like that, we've probably got 10 or 15 different plans of which days. We confuse, oh no, that company, they're in Thursdays. Oh no, they came Tuesday.
Right.
Anyway.
Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about this deal. You sold what I think is one of the great iconic magazine brands in life.
We did not sell it.
To
Josh Kushner and Carly Kloss.
Carly Kloss. You did not sell. I know you still have a piece of it.
Well, what we did is we licensed it because while we do a lot with Life magazine in terms of the archives, we don't publish Life magazine any longer. And Josh came, and he made a passionate argument as to why Life magazine could be reborn. And
Okay. All right. So licensing his magazine instead. Got it. So all right. Let's see here. What else do we have? Coinbase got its restricted dealer license in Canada. That's pretty cool. So good for them. That sort of helps them move along a little bit with. It might actually even help you push along regulation in the U.S. Although some say that's the Coinbase move in Canada is just really following some of the court cases in America. What a joke. Zillow names this year's best markets for first-time homebuyers. There are no best markets for first-time homebuyers today. This is rough. This is a really rough time for first-time homebuyers this year. But I guess we can take a peek at it. So let's see here. This is just a giant survey. Oh, this is quite boring. Never mind. Okay, that's very boring. So then we've got what else? Latest BTC flows. Ooh, this is interesting. All right, let's go ahead and put this up on screen. Bitcoin flows. All right, let's see what we have here. So these are the latest flows. This is March 28th here. So you can see this is April on the far right. And we had more flows here in March, at sort of the end of the quarter. But right now we're looking a whole lot like we were over here in the middle of March. Except in the middle of March you had a lot of grayscale outflows. Oops. Hold on a sec. It's my stupid picture. There we go. There we go. And the problem with these, or rather the difference here is that we had a lot of outflows in Grayscale, and still, you know, you saw. Let's see here. Trying to see quickly. What do we have? This is okay, got it. So I want to look at the pricing. I want to compare the pricing to what happened. That would be March 15th to March 22nd. So let's zoom out on this a little bit. March. Interesting. Yeah, look at that period of time. So March 15th to March 22nd, you had low ETF inflows, but you had large Grayscale outflows. Watch this. Right here. That's right about here in terms of pricing. That's right when we peaked out at about 74K, and we dropped all the way to about 63. This drop right here was really driven by those Grayscale sales and a lack of inflows. Those inflows picked up again at the end of the month, as we saw sort of price move up here at the end of the month. And then now we're seeing the price sort of stabilize lower as some of those ETF inflows are slowing down quite a bit. Not quite as slow as what we saw there in that second week of March period, but certainly nowhere near what we've seen at the end and at the end of February and early March. And that's likely because that's when we really saw this euphoria. You can see here from Feb 26 to about March 14th, you were basically straight up in Bitcoin. It was like you bought and then you just made money. And that led to a lot of inflows right here. We're not really getting that kind of price action right now. And so we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in those inflows, which is interesting. Now, good thing is it's offset by less Grayscale selling since they're kind of running out of BTC to sell, which is fine as people move either into their own accounts or to other assets or ETFs or whatever. So I think that's interesting. So let's see here. Tesla, let's see, what is this? Tesla begins producing right-hand drive cars in Germany for export to India. They're expected to start later this year. Tesla team is expected to visit India. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday, this idea about expanding to a plant in India. You know, until we break ground at Tesla Mexico, I don't actually believe that Tesla's in the position to expand anywhere. So, not super excited about that. Okay, so then we have aliens want us to mine gold because they need it for their home planet. Okay. Steve spawned in with aliens now. They break the gold into fine particles and inject it into the atmosphere to prevent it from disappearing into space. Nice. So, what else? Yeah, there was an outflow of from ARK, but that was, you know, just yesterday. I'm just saying in aggregate. Usually they're looking at Grayscale. Let's see here. Bankers hate silver. Can we talk about the April date catalyst coming up on inflation? Yeah, we did already at the beginning of the video, right? So we've got tomorrow's jobs report, along with coupon expiration, Monday's warrants deadline, Wednesday's minutes and CPI, Thursday's PPI. So we've got a lot of enthusiasm there. Let's see here. Oh no. Okay, some of these comments are funny. Okay, so let's see what else. So let's close this down. Okay, let's go to... So that's BTC flows. Yeah, we could look at... I wonder if we go to... Let's see, I want to see the flows of ARK. I wonder if I could look at the flows of ARK-B, the Bitcoin ETF, because I'm wondering why you saw such a drop. I can't I mean, we did just see it there on screen. What about ARK outflows. Like if we just go RK. Let's try that one. It's a little hard to visualize. So yesterday it looks like they had inflows of about $19 million. On the 2nd they had outflows of $90 million. They've been negative since about March 26th, with the exception of yesterday. But these giant inflows on March 18th of like $212 million. So you get these pretty wild fluctuations. Wonder what happened on March 18th. Like an arc. March 18th. Let's see. Day chart. March 18th right here. It looks like it was that a down day? Let's see what day people were flowing into this. It came after... No, it was actually an up. Nothing really special on that day. Weird. And 200 million in inflows that day. Very interesting. All right. What else? So... Next. Okay, electric cars still draw U.S. drivers despite hurdles? Well, yeah, as they should. I personally like EVs a lot, and wish there was more of a slate to buy from of types of vehicles. Vehicle electrification is here to stay in the U.S. 42% of BI survey respondents say they would opt for electric cars in their next purchase, 16 point versus the current current ownership rate. While current EV owners are likely to stick with such vehicles, I believe that. Low battery EV penetration, transitory. Hybrid stands out. Just 9% of respondents in the BI survey saying they would opt for a battery electric vehicle in their next purchase. Muted penetration may be short term, maybe due to charging hurdles, range anxiety, and a lack of affordability. New models coming out in 2026 might help. Yeah. Okay. Let's listen in here.
As you typically do.
Oh, yeah. Disney. Mr. Iger wins.
From February of 23. I read through our interview from Sun Valley. I read through Andrew's interview with Iger from his deal book, and Julia's more recently from the first quarter numbers. I mean, Jim, one thing is that Iger did make certain promises that he's already kept in terms of cost cutting, in terms of turning certain things around. Obviously, there is a great deal yet to come, but I also think that was in his favor as well.
Yeah, but let's not forget, Hugh Johnson came in. I know you from PepsiCo. The guy's money. Okay, so he comes in, he basically resets what you're doing financially with Iger. Iger comes back and endorses the $7.5 billion instead of $5.5 billion in terms of cost cuts. Is ESPN fixed? Well, that wasn't something that Nelson was even talking about. But is there a succession plan? That, I think, David, is the key thing to focus on if I were out there. And I know that you've read everything, but there still is a question. How did they go so wrong? How did that board, which we know was filled with heavyweights, go so wrong in succession? And that, David, I really need to know.
Well, I'm not sure you're going to get there. I mean, we're going to, we'll see. We'll see what I choose to ask. That's the nice part.
Know. I mean, come on,
choose
Bob
to ask
could
whatever I
surprise you.
want. I don't have to listen to you. Yeah, I don't have to listen to what you want to ask. I can ask
is that
whatever I
why?
want.
Is that
So, too bad.
YOU or is that HUGH?
To your point, that was an important appointment for them. And, the sense of urgency that Hugh Johnson said they are working with right now is also something that was well taken by the investment community in terms of sort of that sense, Carl, at Disney in trying to execute on so many things. Most importantly, still direct to consumer, where, they're going to have a $23 billion revenue number or something along those lines this year and get to profitability before the end of the year.
Yep. Listening to Diller on Squawk this morning, I think his words were a great waste of time. And Jessica Reif-Ehrlich, David, who did point out earlier that the focus now is going to be getting on growth and just pushing on the growth, particularly when it comes to DTC.
Yeah, I mean, the key is the margins. How do you, can you ever get close to what Netflix has? Well, they're not saying they're going to be able to do that in the near term, but I think the longer term, the hope is it will be a growth business. Listen, the conversation that Bob and I have been having for years, of course, is can you ever replace in a real way this business and the incredible margins that have come with the cable ecosystem, and the beauty of a business where people pay you even though they don't watch. And that's still going to be extraordinarily difficult. But
the beauty of a business where people pay you even though they don't watch. That's funny. Yeah, that's kind of like the gym subscription model. Anyway, with that said, look at the Qs here. I mean, they really took off. This is pretty remarkable. They really took off starting right at that claims report, which is remarkable because usually every week the claims report does nothing. Like people just, okay. So very interesting. It's almost like the market is like looking for a reason to be enthusiastic. And then just taking any reason and running with it. So I find this like surprising. Usually, I'm going to write this down. Usually the market doesn't move much on a claims report, but today, I mean, let me see how many basis points we shot up. We were over here. I want to say we were about 30 up, but let's see here. We were about right before the report. We were at 44431. So let's write this down. Let's see here. 44431. Now we're at 44615. Divide the two. Yeah, 41 basis point move. Wow. Okay, I'll write that. Usually I market this move, but today, this is QQQ. Let's go to the minute. Okay, yeah, here we go. Today, okay. So I don't really, but today the market moved straight up with the Qs, 41 BP right after the nominal report. Any reason to be excited? And that's fine. Like as long as our data comes in good Friday and next week, no problem. Party on. This is a how would you call this? This is a weird sensitivity to a report that usually doesn't get attention. Does this potentially amplify the importance of Friday's jobs report and Wednesday's CPI report? Probably. Okie dokie. All right. I wonder what Doomberg's up to. I'll listen to them in a minute. So let's flip on over. See if they've got anything for us. Palantir's now 6%. Nice. All right, let's see here.
We had a bit of a shakedown in the bond market last autumn. That was over fiscal concern. We're in an election year. We're not going to blow that up at the moment. So here's the issue. I haven't seen any kind of buyer strike in the corporate issues that we've gone on through the year. I haven't seen any kind of buyer strike in the bond market so far in 2024. And everybody's telling me there shouldn't be one, that I want to pick up IG, I want to pick up the yield, want to clip the coupon. So, I put it to you, Matt, that this bond market for now, and I can't project the future, for now, doesn't really care about the fiscal irresponsibility of Washington, for now.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you look at high yield spreads, to your point, high yield spreads are now basically 300 basis points or 299 basis points at the end of the quarter. So that's the additional yield you get for a high yield or corporate junk bond relative to treasuries. And that is of the lowest in history. There's only 10% of instances over the last 30 years where high yield spreads have been that tight. We ran analysis looking at the subsequent one-year return after high yield spreads are that tight. The subsequent one-year total return is basically zero. And you lose, in addition to the 7% yield, 8% yield right now, with price declines in high yield. So it's priced for perfection, Manus. And we're
boring. I was going to mention, something else is that yesterday, the market somewhat rallied into the close after Powell spoke. Not necessarily everything in terms of indices or otherwise, but a lot of individual stocks did. And I wonder if It was sort of like a, excuse me, goodness gracious, and get the Powell catalyst out of the way, you know, and then it's like, all right, that's done, we're clear, pump it. Very interesting. All right, back to here.
Will be looked at a bit more broadly today. Yes, it will incorporate what we typically think of as rotations, but it will be broadened to encompass pivots and evolution, if not rethinking. What is your biggest rethink? I mean, there's a lot to contend with there, so I want to go straight to the end. What's your biggest rethink? Because you're still quite doomster on NASDAQ and bid up on energy. So what's your biggest rethink?
So I think the biggest rethink is actually comes down to the Fed, where it's clear that they're trying to come up with excuses to be able to cut. Right? It's if they stuck to any traditional metrics, if they stuck to long-term averages, all these things that they talked about before, they've kind of pivoted away. They are definitely trying to come up with excuses to cut. I'm not sure they'll be able to deliver on that, but that's definitely something I'm thinking about. The other rotation is I really liked energy. I actually do like Chinese stocks more than NASDAQ. That's actually worked reasonably well for the past 2 months. I still think that's where the froth or issues are potentially on those AI and the stocks that have been deputized into the AI space that have really rallied quite strongly. And I think now we're going to be that moment where it's push comes to shove. Are companies really getting a good cost benefit at today's AI technology, at today's prices of AI? Or are we going to see a bit of a pullback like we've seen in some other, big success stories? I'm not quite prepared to go all in on the Russell 2000, partly because, as other guests mentioned, commercial real estate does seem to have some problems. On the other hand, I'm quite fine with credit. I don't think we're going to see problems with credit. One thing we're still all trying to digest is the impact private credit is having on this market. And ultimately, I think it's actually a good thing for markets. And it's also why I don't think CRE is going to turn into a real problem. I think it's just going to be a slow bleed that banks can deal with quite okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, slow bleed of commercial real estate. Juicy.
He was in the seat this time last week, and he basically said he felt that the worst had passed in CRE. HSBC writing down the total size of their exposure by 27%, really trimming back the book. Matt, you're both in syncopation on one thing, on energy, and it's a building narrative from everybody, so which is about breadth, it's about oil prices. But you say that there's good cost discipline in the energy sector, and the dividends will pay handsomely.
Yeah, I mean, I in a former life was an energy analyst, and back in those days, the dollars that came in for these companies, they were often deployed into going in and producing more oil, and that was counterintuitive in a way because that brought in more supply and that lowered oil prices, and then that was a feedback loop. Now they're saying we're not going to increase production. We're not going to, they are basically taking on production that OPEC has stepped back from.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing this, you're just seeing great cost discipline. You're seeing high free cash flow. They're cheap. They're paying good dividends. And they would be, if you see a rotation, energy is likely going to be the bracket buster of the March Madness. It's now the second best performing sector year to date. Communication services #1, but tech, which is the #1 seed in the March Madness or the tournament here, is starting to get tired. And a lot of great news is priced in. And so you could easily see a rotation that would help value stocks. More broadly, energy is going to be a big overweight in value versus growth. And it would be a bit of a 2022 type scenario. You might get some of those vibes coming into markets this year.
Okay, don't be ashamed of your former life in energy. I'm an OPEC reporter, and it is a blood sport, and a very enjoyable blood sport at that. Stay with me, Peter Cheer and Matt Miskin, my guests.
All right, energy folks. Yeehaw. Yeah, Dell, by the way, is up mostly just on, frankly, just volume. A lot more social media attention. There was no news yesterday. The sucker's up 8.5% yesterday. It's up another 1% this morning. Remember, they got a pretty incredible shout out from NVIDIA, not in the last earning, not in AI day, but in the earnings before that. And I remember covering it and saying, wow, they just got an incredible shout out. And in my NVIDIA video, I was talking about it. Hey, maybe pay attention to Dell. And what's remarkable is that the stock was only up like maybe 4 or 5% in the after hours. The next day, it ended up being up 7%. And it's just basically been nearly straight up since then. Did have a little bit of a pullback here, but nearly straight up since then. It's been kind of remarkable. I don't know that for a business that is, 2% exposed to AI, that, 2% of their business might end up doubling to 4% of their business, that it's the most fundamental play, but the narrative makes sense. In the meantime, BTC did finally just hit. Ooh, Costco's still trending down a little bit, but BTC did just hit 67, and look at that. It's testing our trend line here. So let's see if we can break through that. We got about 15 minutes to the bell, and so this breakthrough right at about 67. It'd be nice to hold that for BTC. And again, a lot's going to come down to the reports that we get tomorrow on jobs, and then CPI next week. So we'll see what happens there. You did talk about Dell and before earnings. This is true. We did. Let's see here. Yeah, just creeping up to $90 mean anything on oil? Yep, exactly. It would certainly be something that's going to contribute to headline inflation, and it's going to create some concerns. Most of the time when we start knocking on the door of 90, there's the thought of, oh, we're going back to $100. And people start getting pissy as well again when they start fueling up their cars. So, it certainly has an impact. Then let's take a look at this. I was reading this a little bit yesterday. This is a Ned Davis piece here. And this was pretty good. They had a section here suggesting that right now the S&P 500 is up 13.8% above its 200-day moving average. And what they do is they look at sort of historically what happens when you're that far above the 200-day moving average. Do you outperform or underperform? And it depends. So if you're between 5 and 12.5%, you tended to have above average gains 1 to 12 months later, suggesting, as they say, a modest overbought condition has not derailed rallies. However, once you got to 15%, returns have been below average for 6 months, but recovered 1 year later. And if you got to 20%, which doesn't happen often, median returns have been weaker than normal for up to 1 year later. So we're at 13.8% overbought, so we're a little closer to 15% than that 12.5 figure, which suggests, maybe like modest returns in the next 6 months, modestly positive or negative. It's sort of in that middle range. Not super useful, but it certainly isn't screaming, oh yeah, the next year is gonna suck. So I did think that was pretty interesting research here from Ned Davis. They do mention that sentiment is stretched, and several liquidity measures could become less friendly in the second quarter. The market is also approaching overbought levels that have been consistent with consolidation. But the overarching message is that strong momentum can keep the market in a long-term uptrend. Yeah, right. So this is the argument of the volatile Nike swoosh, right? It's basically saying, hey, near term we could have a correction here, but will the Nike swoosh be intact? Yes. I kind of agree with that as well. So, yeah. Okay, good. So let's go to look at BTC really moving here. Really nice movement. That's solidly on the minute candles above our trend line, 67.3. Yesterday we went as low as about mid 65s yesterday evening. But now we are pumping. So somebody's saying, will Nike swoosh? Nah, Nike gave its swoosh to everyone else. The Nike swoosh recovery. That's, Nike gave the swoosh away. Everybody else is getting the swoosh. So, all right. Let's see how this pre-market continues to unfold. Still very little red. We're looking at maybe 5, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe like 7 names that are pre-market red. And the rest is basically green, which is wild. So we'll see here. We've got Honest Company up there at up 7% in the morning here. I wonder if there's any particular news on this. Although this one can move on just a little bit of buying in the morning. Let's see here. Okay, so Honest rated a buy with a $6 price target at Lake Street. Okay. MicroStrategy is up 5.6. We've got Wayfair up 5%. Palantir's up 5.2. Wonder if there's any move on Wayfair or any news. Tilray's up about 4.21. Haha. Tilray's up 4.20. Bobbing around there. Hut 8's up a little. Etsy up a little. Carvana is at $84. All right. Individual. Let's see here. You've got Wayfair, Evercore upgrades them on improving fundamentals. I agree with that. I actually think Wayfair and Restoration Hardware are pretty cheap right now. They've had some volatile days in their price action, but pretty cheap right now. Apple, you had a lot of insider selling yesterday at Apple. A lot of like Tim Cook even sold some shares. Q's really holding at about 1% there. Nvidia 169. That's gonna be really entertaining going into the open here. Amazon's up another percent. I think Amazon's a deal. They're just about to broach their all-time highs from 2021, and it's gonna be entertaining to see where it goes from there. I think Amazon's sort of been. I personally think Amazon should be moving higher than something like Microsoft, but that OpenAI connection from Microsoft has been money. I mean, their move in market cap has way more than paid for their exposure to OpenAI.
I wonder what that's going to mean for Paramount. So, yes, that's not unimportant. I'm glad you raised it.
Meantime, guys, we'll get to some of the sell-side reaction today. Bunch of downgrades. B of A, Square, Dave & Buster's, Bumble, Ferrari, and, of course, David's exclusive with Disney's Bob Iger when we come back.
Alrighty, so let's take a peek here at Doomburger. See what Doomburger has for us. And jumping into the Dooms. Good old Doomburger.
That's where we're overweight, and those companies to us are going to be the leaders because earnings are going to be really important as the year goes on.
Well, it was supposed to be that we were all not Sinophile enough when it comes to Apple from Wedbush Securities, making Apple worth $4 trillion, and that narrative has significantly changed. Matt, thank you very much. Matt Miskin, Peter Chair, on the markets this morning. Coming up, your morning calls. I will also catch up with RBC's Amy Wu Silverman. She'll explain the positive sentiment that she's seeing through the options market. Guess which prism she will use? NVIDIA. That's right. Right here on Bloomberg.
All right. Okie dokie. So now we are, let's see here. Let's do another look here. Oil, pretty much flat right now, sitting at down 0.8 bips. You've got, wow, the 10 years actually down 2.6 basis points. Obviously, the market's bizarrely sensitive to nominal data here. You were up 2 basis points on the 10-year. Now you're down 2 basis points. Just because of continuing claims. Kind of remarkable. So, good for it. Enthusiastic day, it looks like, before the jobs report. So, what else? Ripple to launch US dollar stablecoin. Ooh. Blockchain firm Ripple says it's launching a US dollar stablecoin. Ripple will compete with Tether and Circle. Didn't rule out an additional stablecoin in different areas. Wow. Stablecoin will be backed by 1-to-1 equivalent sum of assets, US dollar deposit, government bonds, cash equivalents. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that's great business, honestly. I feel like Tether, just the amount of interest you could earn. My goodness. It seems wonderful. So, anyway. Okay. So, what else? A lot of people making funny comments here in the chat. So let's look at, let me go to XRP. What are they up to today? This morning? Yeah, you did get a little bit of a nice candlestick up here on this news. You can see that here. You're up about 4.5% on XRP. Following this this news here. getting into the stablecoin market. Okie dokie then. So now we're 4-ish minutes away from the open. We'll kind of watch what happens here with Ripple. Let's see if I can get a little more news on them. Ripple, 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 Ripple. Let's see here. Okie dokie. Yeah, I guess there's not much more on that. Just that they are. Okay. Well, that's fine. Good for them. Okay. Quickly write that down. Ripple. Launching 1-to-1 backed stablecoin. Stablecoin. Backed by cash, equiv, government bonds, and treasuries to compete with USDT, USDC. Got it. Boom. XRP up about 4.5%. I think it'd almost be up a little more than that. I think it's a good profit center for them. No, well. Okay, good. Next. So now about 3 minutes to go. So we talked Ned Davis, we talked yields, talked data, talked catalysts, talked to Dell. We saw the upgrade on Honest, but we saw the partnership deal on Palantir. Dave & Buster's was up a full 10% yesterday the way it closed. So really nice breakout of the longer term trend. And pretty much flat in pre-market now. Though the pre-market's pretty excited with BTC. Well, it's staying up. Look at that. Ran all the way up to 67.5 above that that trend line. Finally back up above that trend line. It was under there for about 2 or 3 days. So something to keep an eye on. And pre-market Qs are kind of flattening right around that 1% level. Doesn't seem like there'd be a reason for negative enthusiasm today. So it seems like you should have a pretty good day here. But who knows? You are going into a data release tomorrow. So sometimes as you go into data releases, you kind of get a little bit of a sell down going into the day. So basically into the close today and into tomorrow. As people get nervous about potentially the jobs data. Unless the market isn't nervous. If the market isn't nervous about the jobs data, then it won't matter. So we shall see. Okay. So, it's an election year. Market is either going sideways or up, not crashing though, IMO. Yeah, that's a lot of people have that thesis. A lot of people have the thesis that, oh, the market can't go down. That's fine. I've heard that before. But, yeah, usually election years are good. That is true. All right.
It's going up, and you don't really have a lot of worry about costs. So
Kevin is short. No, Kevin is not short. You got to pay attention. You know, maybe it's because you don't have the stocks and psychology of money course. Oh, I do have a position in one AI stock, but broadly I'm barely short. And people are like, oh, you're still short Tesla. No, I'm not short Tesla. So you get all the buy-sell alerts if you're part of the group. Anyway, we got to listen to some very important music here. All right, here we go.
Finally getting back to just almost everything's back to where it was, and that's why ConAgra's up. People didn't go away. People wanted to spend less money. They're back. Supermarket.
Let's get the opening bell here at the CNBC Real-Time Exchange to the big board. Destiny Tech 100 celebrating its recent listing at the NASDAQ. 5.9, provider of an intelligent CX platform celebrating its 10th listing.
That is pretty green. That's like 90-something% green. Reminds me of like the COVID days. You've got the Qs here really kind of stable at the open. You've got, looks like a green candle just came through on Tesla. There it is. There it is. Yeah, look at that. 1.3% on Tesla. You're sitting on the 170 line right now. Next stop usually for Tesla is 174. So 170 to 174, that's a range we tend to play in. I don't know what just happened to Tilray, but Tilray just got smoked. Pun intended. You just went from like 420 up to negative. Lost the lead on that one. Dave & Buster's just lost the lead. Remember, folks, very, very normal that we're going to get red. Like, you don't usually have just 6 stocks red. It's very, very odd to just have 6 stocks red when the day opens. So it's just a matter of like, okay, what's going to turn red? Usually, a lot turns red. You're going to go from like 6 to like 50 stocks that are red. But anyway, Costco's moving up about 1%. Tesla just went back to a red candlestick. It's not holding that 170 line. Again, first 15 minutes, though, are always problematic. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad day. You do have Palantir holding on to its 4.5%. Apple's dropping a little bit, though still positive. You've got the Qs now turning slightly red. Wingstop's still up 0.5%. That's a scam. Intel's rotating down. You've got Nvidia's trying to rotate down. It actually looks like everything's trying to rotate down. So I don't know what happened with the pre-market enthusiasm, but the market was somewhat rallying on like stupid data on continuing claims. And you are getting some red right now. It's possible this is just first 15 minutes, or it's possible that the market's like, okay, let's take some chips off the table as we go into the jobs report and CPI report next week. Who knows? We're just going to have to watch it here. The Russell Small Cap 2000 is moving up nicely. You've got Open Door up 4%. They don't really care about the red today. Wayfair's up. Meta. Look at Meta's rally. 2.6% here on Meta. That's pretty impressive. And Tesla's now only up about 47 basis points. Palantir's up about 4. Dell up 2. Dell's really moving here. So Dell's got a lot of enthusiasm. 2.6% into the day. Tilray just, again, smoked. And look at that. The Qs are stable. So you're getting a lot of this sort of mixing. It's like, you know, Apple and Google are trying to go down, but Facebook's moving up nicely. So you're sticking to about that 1% there on the Qs. Meta now 2.8%. Been sneaking up here, slowly sneaking up. And again, we'll see how the first 15 minutes of the day go. They tend to be very volatile, so it's not horribly surprising. No 7 o'clock data today, so you've got no big catalyst coming up, you know, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the day starts. Sometimes you get those throughout the day. Let's see how people are reacting elsewhere. Okay. So we have, NASDAQ. Let's see here. Average crypto portfolio up $2,800 so far in 2024. Ooh. Then you've got European central bank policymakers may have makers look to have called the oil market wrong when they last met, creating a potential headwind for the region's bonds. That's a little complicated. Dollar rally has expected dollar to rise. Fed path worries. Okay, fine. There goes Nvidia right back up. So Nvidia right back up. Amazon right back up. That's going to push the Qs over 1%, almost certainly here. Qs are going, here's 1% on the Qs. There you go. Look at that. Dell skyrocket. A lot of this is momentum at the moment. There's no real news over the last few days, but you are getting some enthusiasm. You've got Meta moving now a full 3%. How's ASML doing? ASML is up about 1.5%. You've got Restoration Hardware up about 1%. Dave & Buster's down 1%. But Dell and Meta, those are your pushers today. Tesla's just trying to lose the lead here. It's having trouble holding on.
Lost the lead.
There. It keeps going back and forth, so it might be a little too early to say. But you've got, that's also Tilray. that they're gonna have gone from positive 4.2% in the pre-market to negative 4.2% during the market day. That's wild. You've got the Q's still moving, still going. Elf Beauty recovering a little bit, up about 1.6%. Amazon still moving, move. End phase, look at that end phase move. They've moved a lot between our lines over here, and they kind of do this sort of bobbing frequently in here. And oh wow, look at Square on the downgrade. Square on the downgrade's down about that 4.2%. Well, it looks like it's trying to be where what's it called, Tilray's going. And then you've got, Dell keeps going. ASML, Meta, getting a little bit of a slowdown on some of that opening euphoria. Okay, let's look at the reds now. How many reds do we have now? There we go. We're at about a page of red right now. Block, Tilray, Dave & Buster's, Trump Media Group, Lululemon. On the green side, you've got that BTC Cashola. And then, of course, BTC itself, 67.3. Enphase, 3%. Western Digital, 3.4. So some good movements here. Palantir, 5% on Palantir. Palantir has moved very volatilely, though. So, we were at 25 there for a while, and it's just sort of down, and then you get some ups, and then you get the downs. Yeah, you get a lot here. Gold miners and weed stocks red, says Chris. Germany legalized weed, yep. We know. Alexander the Great says, Enphase CEO was lying out of his teeth last earnings call, just like Elon pumped Tesla demand in early 2023. Ouch. That is a big accusation. 447 resistance on the Qs. Yeah. All right. So, wow, Dell's at 4% now. Good job. Where is this sucker? Let's see this. Dell. A lot of euphoria going into this one. Meta's dropping off that over 3% level, slowly stabilizing a little bit. Still very, very good day on Meta. Great day on Palantir. But who's not giving up is Dell. That's wild. Apple back to about 71 bips up. So Apple gave up some of that red. You can see it was going red here in the morning and rotated here. Somebody says, dude, you're getting a Dell? What do you mean, man? I already have a Dell. I'm just kidding. It's like, where you been? And NVIDIA 1.5 as well as ARM kind of bobbing around. So I think it's very interesting that you're getting this sort of movement here the day before the jobs report. This is a mostly excited market the day before the jobs report. Even Google's trying to recover after their fee announcement. It's still a great company. But yeah, you do now have that full page of a red. Volatility, red. Tesla's back to green here. Take the lead. But a little bit. It looks like it's trying to bottom out right here on the day. Wouldn't be surprised for it to try to test that 170 number again as it moves up towards 170. We'll see. This is a weird place for it to be, 168. You don't really have anything for you down here, so there's always that chance that it just runs right back to about that 170 level. Although the Qs are giving up a little bit right now. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but let's find out. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Gold, 2309. Bonds down 3 bips now. And Brent oil unchanged. Elon Musk is handing out blue check marks to those with over 2,500 subscribers. Or followers, or whatever they call it. Retailers like Peloton and Saks keep paying vendors late. Possible signs of distress. Yikes. Let's see what Piton's been up to. Piton. Oh, don't worry. It's up 2.4% on the day. Okay. Meta. Okay, so the first 10 minutes of the day are kind of coming to an end. Somebody here says, when do you think Elon has to sell Tesla shares? All of that comes down to the loan negotiations that I think he has on Twitter, X. So it's not necessarily true that he has to sell, but it's going to be a little bit of a problem. How much did you make on Peloton? I think I bought, it was somewhere around, I got out at like 113, and I think my average basis was like 80. And then we're like, we started seeing the inventory climb up. We're like, get out, get out, get out. And I mean, that was great because, the freaking stock collapsed. It's $4 now. But I don't know, maybe 100, 200K or something like that. It was good. Those were some of the really fun days where just the level of euphoria was just insane. I mean, now you're seeing euphoria on some stocks too. I mean, look at like Dell. I think remember, folks, this stock is up from $80 to $134 on the idea that 2% of its business has doubled. So that's pretty remarkable. That's great, kind of crazy. All right, so Tesla here trying to stabilize. Now, remember, one of the things that I mentioned with Tesla is that you might have a tax loss harvest opportunity. And the idea was that the stock wouldn't move much between March and April. I posted that video. I want to say it was on March 11th that we posted that video. And the idea was that was when the stock was trading for about 177-ish, somewhere around there. I think it was March 11th. But anyway, so March 11th, the idea is you potentially tax loss harvest on a stock that might trade sideways before earnings. Remember, earnings are on the 19th. So if you, or sorry, on the 23rd. I thought it was the 19th. It's actually the 23rd. So you actually have the ability to go from tax loss harvesting in like the second week of March to getting back in the second week of April if you wanted to. And the stock probably not having done much. I mean, so far it's down since that time. And it's mostly because you really have a lack of really strong positive catalysts. And there's always that chance to potentially rebuy before earnings and some potential. And then that, of course, also gets the jobs report behind you and the CPI report behind you, which I think are going to be pretty critical reports. Mostly just because J-Pow kind of bagged on January, February so hard. When you bag on Jan, Feb so hard as not being important, you actually amplify the importance of March. So let's see. Let's see here. Somebody says here, that was a nice play. I sold Tesla and Nvidia that day. Washed some gains, looking to re-enter Tesla. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, Nvidia has mostly been sideways. I mean, go back to March 11th. March 11th, we were at a high of 900 and a low of 841 that day. So you had a lot of volatility that day. You had a 6% day that day. But we're pretty much at the same point. Nearly at the same point as where we were then. So it is interesting. So from a tax play, taking some gains and washing them with losses on Tesla, it made sense. Made strategic sense. Yeah. So Austin here says, I've been tax loss harvesting Tesla for 3 years. Damn. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's been a bummer, but it'll have its day in the sun. Tesla will come back. I'm long-term bullish on the company, but you just have really, really strong headwinds right now. You still have to deal with Elon's comp package. You've got the X potential funding issues. I know there's so much enthusiasm around FSD and these free trials, but convincing people to pay 12 grand is going to be tough. Maybe if you could get some more of those SaaS subscriptions, great, but we'll see. Nvidia keeps trying to red candle here, whereas Dell keeps going up. The entire time I've been talking, Dell's just continued to go up. So it just keeps going. Keeps going. HubSpot halted on the upside. Ooh. Let's see here. Q's pretty stable. pretty stable market, honestly. For the day before a serious jobs report, I mean, you got your page of red. We knew that would happen. But that's, I'd say, a pretty dang stable market. MicroStrategy up 6.4, Enphase up about 4%, Dell up 5%. Open Door 3, Ulta's rebounding, Palantir is doing great, Bitcoin. All right, anything else that came out in terms of news? High-flying momentum stocks face tax and earnings pressure. Okay. A rules-based investing style that buys winners in the past year, selling losers, notched up its best quarter in decades. Pure momentum. Oh, yeah. Well, usually those pure momentum ones that chase the momentum stocks don't do too well because they get bled out. But right now, that's working. Like, usually if you chase momentum, you get burned because you get stuck holding the bag. Lately, though, chasing momentum has done great. Best quarter in decades. You know that's a bad sign when a momentum fund, one of the Citigroup momentum funds. Let me clarify this here. So we're gonna write it down. So Citigroup Pure Momentum Fund. Okay, so this it literally buys winners, sells losers. This is the best quarter in decades that it's had. However, usually hits a rough patch. Oh, that's interesting. Beginning mid-April. I wonder why. This is possibly due to the U.S. tax deadline for weak performance in April. Investors tend to snag up laggards and sell winners to fund tax payments. Sell winners and buy laggards to fund tax payments. Okay. Momentum has basically been on a roll for 6 months. Yeah. So usually, and this is just my opinion on it. Usually, these funds get burned. That's why they've had their best quarter in decades, which implies they rarely have great quarters. Usually they get burned because you're chasing something that's gone up, right? Usually get caught holding the bag. Not this cycle. And so the question is, when does that flip? When does momentum flip? So far, straight up. As a case in point, Dell. Where's that sucker? There it is. Aha! Red candlestick. Red candle. Red candle. As we're talking about it. Yeah, it's kooky. I don't know. People leave all these sorts of mean comments all the time, and it's fine. Like, I've been on social now for 7 years. God, that sounds old. It's remarkable, but people are like, oh, Kevin, you're a perma bear. You're always bearish. I'm like, I've been bearish for like 3.5 weeks. I've been bullish since November of 2022. So, I'm bullish for, what is that? A year plus 4 months, so 6. I'm bullish for 16 months. I'm bearish for 3.5 weeks, and I'm a perma bear. I'm like, bro, I'm just looking at the data. I don't know. People are funny, I guess. It's comedy. So, okay, what else? Boy, Dell's okay. This is interesting. Now you're starting to get a little bit of that turn in the market. Oh, Tesla just had a green candle out of nowhere. Oh, that has to be news driven. That's a crazy. They were literally just negative 20 bips. They just shot up nearly 1% in a candlestick. That dude's literally been saying Nike swoosh forever. I know. People get... I remember how mad people were at me last summer when the market was falling. And they're like, there is no Nike swoosh. The Nike swoosh is dead. No news, honestly, on Tesla that minute. So, did Elon say something? Kathy Wood is buying. Let's see here. Let's go to Elon. And I don't think he's awake. Nope. Did you know it costs as little as 3 cents per click on this platform? Make sure your ad is interesting and clear. Go Elon. Please sell more ads on X so that we don't have to expect Elon selling shares. Okay, so let's try to understand what's going on here broadly. I mean, I know Tesla just had a weird move there, but you're getting a little bit of a bleed on the Qs, and then I'm gonna make a coffee, go to the bathroom, and then we'll come back. So the Qs, you've got a little bit of a bleed on the Qs. That's partially being driven by a downtrend in Nvidia, and Dell is literally giving up its momentum. Remember, folks, I was saying this. It ran on nothing. It just ran on momentum. This is normal. It's high volume. It's options playing. It's crazy. Palantir did have news. It's only up 2.3 right now. ASML, I don't know what the hell just happened with that candlestick, but that looks nasty. Facebook is giving up its rally. Restoration Hardware has no volume. Gosh, 201 shares in a minute right there? That's embarrassing. Okay, so Tesla's up 0.5%. We're not sure why that spike came. It was probably just a fun. You've got Bitcoin moving, so that's good. Yeah, you got a little bit of a mixed bag here. Tilray's, wow, from positive 420 to like negative 420 to going back to 4%. That's wild. Sort of a crazy day here. What is this? T-Docs 128. Baba's up 88 bips today. I can't really see like a broad-based set of pain here. All of a sudden, wow, Enphase 6%. Okay, wow, nice momentum. Yeah, and it does look like a little bit of a move there on some of your AI chip plays, but otherwise, very curious day. You know, you got the Qs bleeding. Dell gives up its momentum. The chips are rotating down. Yet some other stocks just want to keep going. So this is a hard one to call. So anyway, all right. So I think that's what we got. So remember, mark your calendar for a few things. Tomorrow, Jobs Day, very big deal. Tomorrow, coupon expiration. So when I send buy or sell alerts, or when I yeet back into Tesla, you'll be the first to know. So watch for that in the Stocks and Psychology of Money course. If you've got questions to bundle up, email us at staff@meetkevin.com. You could also bundle up the event. If you want to come June 21 to 23, it's going to be amazing. Then next week, Monday, house hack warrants are due. If you have questions, email us at ir@househack.com. Sorry, that's next week, Monday the 8th. Next week, Wednesday, we have the CPI report. Next week, Wednesday, we have the FOMC minutes. Next week, Thursday, we have the PPI report. So we got a lot to cover, a lot to do over the next few days. Now I'm going to look at some sticks while I press this. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment decision. Wow. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services which we may benefit from. I personally operate and actively manage the ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. That Enphase run is crazy. All right, folks, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.